You've heard of hidden cities, but what about hidden civilizations deep within our own planet? For centuries, scientists have looked to the stars for extraterrestrial life, but what if the most incredible discovery is buried right beneath our feet? Join us as we dive into the fascinating and potentially terrifying implications of a technological marvel at Earth's very core. Beneath the familiar surface of the Earth lies a hidden architecture so immense that we can only describe it in fragments. Scientists tell us that if we could somehow travel downward, leaving behind the soil, the roots, and the quiet layers where life dwells, we would soon encounter 4 vast domains. These domains are not imagined, not myth, but the product of careful observation, inference, and the whispers of seismic waves. And yet, for all their authority, they remain shadows, sketches of something we have never truly touched. The first domain is the crust. It is thin, brittle, and fragile compared to the immensity of the planet. Like the delicate skin of a fruit, it is the place where we live, where mountains rise and seas rest, where we build our cities, tell our stories, and imagine ourselves at the center of existence. Yet in truth, the crust is only a sliver, a fraction of what the Earth contains. It reaches barely tens of kilometers in depth, and beyond it lies an interior stranger than most of us will ever grasp. Below the crust stretches the mantle. This realm is not solid in the way we imagine stone, nor is it fluid like water. It is something between rock softened by heat, able to flow slowly, inch by inch, across millions of years. Scientists compare it to honey warmed gently, moving in convection currents that drag continents across the surface like rafts. The mantle is vast, thousands of kilometers deep, containing most of the planet's volume, and yet it is still not the heart. It is a passage, a slow-moving ocean of stone that leads us inward. Deeper still lies the outer core. Here we encounter a sea of molten metal, iron and nickel churning restlessly in liquid form. It is a strange ocean, one we will never swim, and yet it sustains us all. For as these metallic currents swirl, they generate Earth's magnetic field, the shield that protects us from solar winds and cosmic radiation. Without this field, life as we know it could not endure. Every compass needle pointing north, every aurora shimmering at the poles, every quiet moment of safety beneath the sun is a gift from this unseen engine, turning ceaselessly beneath our feet. And at the very center, smaller than the moon, yet heavier than all the mountains combined, rests the inner core. Solid iron compressed under unimaginable pressures, glowing with heat that rivals the surface of the sun. It is not a place one could visit, nor a chamber one could stand within. It is a realm beyond survival, beyond contact, and yet it is there, steady, enduring, carrying the memory of billions of years. This is the Earth as science describes it, a layered world, each level stranger and more forbidding than the last. But it is crucial to remember how we know these things. No human has ever touched the mantle. No probe has pierced the outer core. No instrument has ever brushed against the surface of the inner heart. Everything we know comes from echoes, seismic waves released by earthquakes, traveling through the Earth, bending, refracting, and whispering their secrets. Scientists listen to these vibrations, mapping them with precision, but what they receive are only patterns. It is like hearing a song through a wall. The rhythm is clear, the tones recognizable, but the singer remains hidden from view. And even the most daring human attempts to reach downward have only grazed the surface. The deepest mines in South Africa reach just over 3 kilometers, and even there, the heat and pressure are already formidable, testing the endurance of steel and stone. The Kola Superdeep borehole in Russia, a project that spanned decades, drilled nearly 12 kilometers, by far the deepest penetration ever achieved. And yet, even this astonishing effort touched only the upper crust. 12 kilometers is nothing against the planet's full diameter of 12,700 kilometers. The comparison often given is simple. Imagine drilling into the skin of an apple, but never even nearing the seeds at its core. That is the scale of our efforts so far. This recognition brings with it a quiet humility. We have stood on the moon. We have sent machines to Mars, to Jupiter, to Saturn's distant moons. We have touched the edges of the solar system. And yet the heart of our own planet, the ground that carries us every day, remains untouched, unseen, entirely inaccessible. It is a frontier not of distance but of depth, a mystery that persists just beneath our steps. We can describe it in theory, but we cannot reach it. It is as if the Earth keeps its heart hidden, allowing us only to imagine. And so the imagination does what it has always done. It fills the silence. If beneath the crust there is more than stone, if within the mantle there is more than molten rock, if the core is not simply iron but something else, what might that mean? Could there be structures that endure where no metal should? Could there be designs beyond our comprehension, hidden in the very place we cannot touch? These are not conclusions, but possibilities. They are questions that arise when we admit how little we truly know. For in mythology and legend, the inner earth has never been just geology. It has been an underworld, a radiant kingdom, a source of power, a place of fear. Cultures across the world have imagined realms below, places where fire or light or wisdom resides. And in this sense, myth is not so distant from science. Both acknowledge the unknown. Both describe what lies beneath as significant, as worthy of attention, as something that shapes the world above. As we begin this long journey into the mysteries of the Earth's hidden heart, let us carry this awareness with us. The ground beneath us is more than stone. It is a veil, concealing depths we cannot yet understand. The crust, the mantle, the outer core, the inner sphere, all are real, all are mysterious, and within them may lie not only geology but something more, something ancient, something waiting. Before we turn to the ancient visions and myths that have shaped our sense of what lies below, let me pause for just a moment. If you are finding value in this exploration, I invite you to gently tap like and subscribe so you can continue with us through the rest of this story. And because we are sharing this journey together in real time, I'd love to know, where are you listening from and what time is it there? Close your eyes again and let us step away from science for a moment. Imagine instead that we are standing not in a modern field with stars above, but in a temple thousands of years old. Torches flicker along stone walls, shadows ripple across carved symbols, and in these quiet flames, humanity's first visions of the world's depths are alive once more. For the ancients, the Earth's centre was never an abstraction of physics. It was alive, inhabited, filled with forces both benevolent and terrible. In Greece, poets spoke of Hades, not merely a god, but a vast realm beneath the soil. To enter was to cross the river Styx, ferried by Charon's boat. In those depths, souls wandered, judges presided, and the earth itself seemed to carry a moral weight. It was not just stone. It was a domain of consequence, where the hidden fires of punishment and renewal glowed in endless night. Travel eastward in thought, and you find the Hindu cosmologies of Patala, the underworld. It was said to be a place more radiant than the surface, filled with jeweled palaces and brilliant serpentine beings, the Nagas, who guarded knowledge. It was not hell but wonder, a realm below where luminous technologies and treasures existed beyond imagination. Here, what lay beneath was not only feared but revered, a counterbalance to the mortal world, holding secrets humanity could barely glimpse. And in Japan, ancient Shinto traditions spoke of Yomi, the land beneath the earth where spirits lingered. Darkness cloaked it, yet it was not only sorrowful. It was part of the cycle of life, death, and return. The earth's interior, in this telling, was not inert matter. It was continuity, the hidden chamber where the wheel of existence turned quietly. These visions were not isolated. Across continents, cultures painted the earth's depths as vast and meaningful. Among the Navajo, there were stories of earlier worlds, entire civilizations beneath our own, from which humanity once ascended. For the Hopi, emergence from a prior inner world shaped their understanding of life on the surface. And among the Norse, Yggdrasil, the world tree, extended its roots into subterranean realms where giants and serpents dwelled. Beneath the surface was always something more, a presence that shaped the fate of gods and men alike. In Tibetan lore, one finds Shambhala not directly described as beneath the earth, but hidden, sealed from ordinary eyes. Some later interpretations wove it into the idea of an inner world, a sanctuary beneath mountains, protected by mystery. Here again, the unseen was not barren. It was radiant, holding wisdom untouched by time. There is a hushed reverence in these accounts. They are not geological maps, yet they are powerful testimonies of how humanity has always sensed that what lies below might be more than rock. These stories, passed from mouth to ear, from elder to child, gave texture to the unseen. They softened the fear of darkness with symbols of order, guardians, and mysteries that lent meaning to life above. Over centuries, such myths began to entwine with early attempts at science. The philosopher Anaxagoras speculated about fire at the centre of the earth. Medieval scholars, influenced by religious visions, described hell as burning beneath us, a belief that shaped maps, art, even politics. Dante's Inferno placed its spirals deep underground, making poetic use of geology long before geology existed as a discipline. The inner earth was, for them, an inheritance of myth, yet it also began to nudge questions. If not just metaphor, what truly lies beneath? Slowly, with time, myth gave way to theory. As instruments improved and natural philosophy matured, thinkers sought physical explanations. But the shadow of myth never disappeared. Even as seismology rose, even as laboratories measured magnetic fields, the imagination of cultures past lingered like a quiet hum beneath the new data. For myths do not die, they transform. And so, when we picture the Earth's core today as iron and pressure, we still echo those older voices. The molten heart resembles the fiery underworlds of Greece and Christianity. The hidden radiance of Patala recalls the energy flowing unseen beneath our feet. The continuous cycles of Yomi and the Hopi inner worlds resonate with the pulsations of mantle convection, the eternal recycling of crust into fire and back again. Science may wear a different language, but it rhymes with memory. There is a strange beauty in realizing this. For long before equations, humanity sensed that what lay beneath was powerful, that it mattered. And even today, though we speak of tectonics and seismographs, a part of us still stands in those torch-lit temples, still listens for whispers from the dark, still imagines not just metal, but meaning. As we let these visions settle, let us step softly from temples and stories, back toward the realm of instruments and theories. For the birth of core science carried its own strange wonder. And it is there, in the marriage of speculation and seismology, that our journey will next lead us. In those early centuries, long before seismographs and satellites, the question of what lay at the centre of our world stirred endless speculation. Philosophers, priests, and poets all reached for answers, and in their grasping, visions as varied as fire, emptiness, and divine machinery emerged. In the ancient Mediterranean, thinkers such as Aristotle believed the earth to be composed of concentric spheres. Others imagined a furnace at the heart, feeding volcanoes with hidden flames. Some cultures suggested vast caverns where gods dwelled or souls journeyed, while others spoke of crystalline pillars supporting the heavens. None of these were based on instruments. They were reasoning stitched from myth, observation, and intuition. By the 17th and 18th centuries, a new idea began to ripple across Europe: the hollow earth. Figures like Edmund Halley, better known for the comet that bears his name, proposed that the earth might contain inner shells, entire concentric worlds beneath our feet. Halley speculated that these inner regions could even glow with their own light, hosting unknown forms of life. Later, writers and visionaries carried these ideas further. They imagined inner suns, hidden continents, and gateways at the poles. What had once been myth was given a new scientific accent wrapped in the emerging curiosity of the Enlightenment. Yet for all its charm, the hollow earth was not to endure. As instruments grew sharper and experiments more precise, contradictions began to appear. Gravity, density, and orbital mechanics all suggested that Earth's mass was far too great to be hollow. The mathematics, though abstract, carried weight, and slowly, The vision of caverns and inner suns gave way to another idea, that the Earth's interior was not empty, but solid, and perhaps unimaginably hot. It was earthquakes that whispered the next truths. Each tremor that shook villages and mountains also sent ripples through the body of the planet. By the 19th century, scientists realized they could listen to these ripples, seismic waves traveling at different speeds through different materials. Like a doctor placing a stethoscope on a chest, geophysicists placed instruments on the Earth and began to hear its hidden heartbeat. From these signals, a picture emerged. Some waves could not travel through liquid. Others bent or refracted as if striking hidden boundaries. Piece by piece, the structure of the Earth revealed itself. A thin crust, a deep mantle, an outer core of molten metal, and surprisingly, a solid inner core suspended in that glowing sea. It was 1936 when Inger Lehmann, a Danish seismologist, first proposed the inner core after noticing seismic patterns that others had overlooked. Her insight was revolutionary. For the first time, humanity glimpsed not only the vast molten engine beneath us, but the solid sphere hidden within it, like a pearl in fire. Still, what we know remains indirect. No drill has reached the mantle, let alone the core. No probe has seen its metal oceans or touched its blazing surface. Every detail is inferred from echoes, shadows, and calculations. Our understanding is strong, but it is also fragile, dependent on interpretations of tremors that pass fleetingly through rock. We are confident in the picture, yet aware of its mystery. It is as if we have traced the outline of a statue beneath a cloth, certain of its form, yet never able to lift the covering. And so, even in the age of seismographs and laboratories, uncertainty lingers. We tell ourselves the Earth is iron at its heart, yet we cannot be entirely sure what else may reside there. Could hidden alloys or exotic phases of matter lie within? Could there be structures or anomalies that our measurements blur or overlook? Science sketches the unseen with clarity, but it does not silence imagination. Perhaps this is the paradox of progress. The more we measure, the more we also realize how much remains out of reach. The inner Earth is no longer the fiery myth of Hades or the jeweled caverns of Patala. And yet, it is still untouchable, still unseen, still waiting. And as we stand here, between knowledge and mystery, another thought begins to stir. If the Earth's core is not only metal, if there could be something more hidden in that depth, what might it be? Machines that predate humanity? Structures older than continents? A design so vast that our seismographs mistake it for geology? Let us carry that question gently. For in the next step of our journey, we will let speculation breathe. We will allow whispers of possibility to rise, whispers of ancient technologies buried not in ruins above, but deep within the very heart of the Earth. Past the crust, past the mantle, past the molten rivers of the outer core, until it settles in the silent glow of the innermost sphere. There, in the imagination's eye, the iron heart of Earth glimmers faintly. But what if, hidden within that blazing silence, something more exists? Not only metal, not only physics, but something placed, something designed, a technology as old as the planet itself. When we speak of technology, we usually think of objects we can hold, a tool, a circuit, a machine. But in the context of Earth's core, such images are almost too small. If something artificial lies there, it may not resemble our devices at all. Perhaps it would be vast, planetary in scale, not an artifact but an architecture. Imagine a lattice of indestructible crystal, humming quietly as it stabilizes the magnetic field, or a self-sustaining reactor, cycling energy across epochs, older than humanity and still functioning beyond comprehension. To name it technology may even be misleading. It could be more like a living mechanism, a fusion of design and nature. But how could such a marvel come to be? One path of speculation suggests a civilization before ours, one so advanced that it sought not temples on the surface, but fortresses of knowledge deep within the earth. Such a people would have understood geology not as barrier, but as shield. To hide something in the mantle or in the heart itself would be to place it beyond reach of erosion, beyond sight of invaders, beyond the ruin of time, a vault carved into the planet's very pulse. Another path imagines something more cosmic. What if such a structure was not human at all? Perhaps the Earth was seeded long ago, its molten center chosen as an anchor point for alien design, a beacon, a power source, or a stabilizer of planetary conditions. In this view, our planet itself becomes a kind of vessel, guided subtly by hands unseen. We might walk the surface unaware, while beneath us a deeper intelligence slumbers in metal and fire. And there is a third vision, harder still to name, that the core is not simply natural nor artificial, but something stranger, something beyond that distinction. Perhaps it formed with the Earth, but with properties so extraordinary that it functions as a kind of natural engine, appearing to us as technology only because it defies our categories. A self-organizing system, perhaps, tuned to maintain balance in ways we do not yet understand. If such structures exist, what would they look like? Certainly they would not resemble our fragile metals or machines. The pressures at the core are immense, millions of atmospheres crushing down from every side. Temperatures rival the surface of the sun. To endure there, any artifact must be forged from substances beyond our knowledge. Perhaps alloys denser than anything in our laboratories. Perhaps lattices of pure energy vibrating in harmony with the Earth's magnetic field. Or crystalline networks pulsing softly with light woven into the very iron itself. In this vision, the inner core becomes not just a sphere of iron, but a hidden cathedral. Vast chambers of glowing mineral, pillars stretching into darkness, currents of molten metal rushing past like rivers of fire. Somewhere within, something hums quietly, its purpose forgotten, its endurance astonishing. It is not a ruin, not broken, but a mechanism still alive, still waiting, still performing a task we cannot yet perceive. To let this image unfold is to feel both awe and unease. For if such a presence exists, it has shaped our world silently for eons. The magnetic field, the rhythms of earthquakes, perhaps even the balance of climate, all may be more than blind forces of nature. They could be side effects of a system placed with intention, a technology so subtle we mistake it for background noise. And yet, none of this can be proved. These are whispers only, speculations carried by imagination. Still, they remind us that the unknown is not empty. It is a canvas upon which wonder paints its shapes. For thousands of years, humans have looked to the stars and asked who might dwell there. But perhaps the greater mystery lies not above us, but below, in the fiery depths we can neither touch nor see. Myths and legends across cultures have long spoken of inner fires, hidden machines, and radiant realms beneath the soil. And it is to those echoes, the stories that may carry memory of something real, that we now turn our gaze. Across ancient landscapes, people found such flames and gave them names that felt worthy of their patience. In the lands of Zoroaster, sacred fires were tended in quiet halls where domes held the smoke like prayer. The fire was not merely heat, it was presence, a thread to something incorruptible, an order beneath change. In places where the ground exhaled gas through fissures, the flames seemed to rise from the earth's own lungs, a reminder that the world could speak without words. Priests watched the colours, the way the tongues lifted and fell, and in their steadiness they read meaning, purity, endurance, a law that did not sleep. Far to the east, stories rippled through Sanskrit like light moving across water. They spoke of palaces that flew, of chariots that did not tire, of radiance gathered and released in measured breath. Vimanas, described as luminous vessels, were said to come and go like thoughts, leaving only trembling air in their wake. Whether imagined or remembered, they floated upon a reservoir of power that seemed less like fuel and more like alignment, something tapped, not burned. In some tellings, the source of this alignment was held within the earth herself, a convergence where stone and sky exchanged letters of fire. In the great civilizations of the Americas, the ground too was a threshold. The Maya knew caves as the mouths of Xibalba, the place where night is not an absence, but a presence, textured and aware. Offerings descended into cenotes, where the water was as clear as polished obsidian, and the surface flickered with torches carried by hands that moved carefully, as if the world might wake. Among the Mexica, mountains were not only landforms, they were bones of the earth, housings for forces that could speak in heat and ash. Tunnels beneath ceremonial centres were laid like careful lines in a manuscript, passages where smoke and echo led the living toward the nearness of the unseen. The ground was never just ground. It was a listening instrument, and the people learned to play it softly. If you move gently through these memories, you notice a pattern of patience and calibration. Fires are tended, not consumed. Waters are descended into, not drained. Stone is listened to, not broken. It is as though the ancients, in various places and languages, approached a power that did not want to be forced. It wanted to be harmonized with, as if the earth offered currents the way a harp offers notes, waiting for the hand that can hear them. Somewhere in the long river of storytelling, a city appears on the horizon of memory, a ringed harbour, bright with metals that caught the sun as if it were being returned. Plato's account is careful and strangely personal, a recollection twice removed, a story carried across generations like a bowl of water that must not spill. The island he calls Atlantis is ordered by circles, canals and rules, a geometry of confidence. There is mention of a gleaming substance, orichalcum, set upon walls and pillars so that the buildings shone as if starlight were folded into their skin. There are temples shaped for God and law, and a populace that lives for a time in accord with some inner measure. Whether Plato pointed back toward events or forward toward instruction is a question that opens and closes like tide. What lingers, softly, is the sense of a civilization that understood power as rhythm. Water fed by channels, fields measured by lines, metals chosen as if they were notes in a scale. A city designed to hum in sympathy with something larger than itself. If a core technology sleeps within the earth, these stories feel like reflections glancing along its surface. Patterns of circling and centering, of gathering and releasing, of listening for a pulse that predates stone. The echo of lost power is never bright with certainty. It is dusklight across the threshold of a temple, sifting through dust, silvering the edges of carved glyphs. The old stories do not present an engine to be wrenched from its housing. They offer posture. They describe a way of standing, patient, aligned, reverent, before a mystery that does not yield to force. In this, Atlantis is less a place than a method, a memory of how to place oneself in relation to a current that runs through rock and time. Let us return now to the cave where your fingers have learned the wall's textures. A drop falls from the roof. Once again, then not at all. The flame before you lifts and steadies, almost as if moved by a breath that comes from beneath. The ground does not rumble, but you imagine it could. Under every footfall on the surface lies a labyrinth of chambers, fractures, crystals, grains. Beneath those, a mantle that moves in seasons we cannot witness. Below that, a sea of metal that never sleeps. And at the deepest place, a sphere that remembers pressure as other things remember light. The old words for this place are varied. The navel, the hearth, the world iron, the indwelling fire. In each you can hear affection. The planet's heart is not a rumour of punishment. It is a centre of warmth, a keeper of direction, the quiet that allows north to be north and day to be day. In some traditions, a tree grows from this centre, its roots tangled in the dark, its crown in the clear. In others, a serpent coils and uncoils, measuring ages with its slow respiration. There are drums tuned to the cadence of the ground, dances timed to footsteps that replay migrations older than maps. If technologies lie buried in the heart, they would not be only machines. They would be metronomes of being, instruments for teaching stone the art of remembering. The core in this thought is not merely a furnace. It is a heart that keeps time for oceans and winds, a memory that allows life to lean upon repetition without falling. And so the myths remain, not as proof, but as practice. They teach attention. They invite us to step low, to notice how a flame chooses its colour, how a cave decides where to hold the sound of a footfall, how mountains converse by exchanging clouds. In these small disciplines, the mind becomes capable of hearing larger rhythms. The stories of eternal fires, of flying palaces, of cities encircled with shining metal, all of them encourage a humility that is not weakness, but readiness. They quiet us enough that, should the earth wish to speak, we might be within earshot. Outside the cave, night has fully gathered. The sky is a black field with scattered embers. Somewhere far above, the aurora occasionally unrolls its slow banners, a silent theatre where invisible lines reveal themselves as colour. Mariners once read those lines with a magnetized needle, trusting that the unseen could be navigated if one learned how to hold still. The same trust lives in old temples, in ringed cities, in the corridors under pyramids and mountains. It lives too in the fires that do not go out. The echo in stone has spoken its part. Ahead of us lies a quieter language still, the one written not in flame or water or carved rings, but in the moving architecture of the invisible, stretching from pole to pole, sheltering swifts and sailors, trees and cities alike. As we continue, we will turn to that soft shield, to the patient lines threading sky and stone, and to the faint signatures they carry from depths we cannot reach. This barrier, the Earth's magnetic field, is often described as a shield. Without it, life would be scorched by radiation, oceans would thin, the atmosphere would unravel into space. It is not made of stone or water, but of invisible lines, an unseen architecture that extends far beyond the clouds. Generated by the restless motions of molten iron in the outer core, this field hums quietly, always present, always guarding. It is a curtain we never see directly, though we rely upon it every moment. For millennia, humans have known it without naming it. Navigators held small needles that turned without effort, always pointing north. They trusted these tiny movements to carry them across oceans, deserts, forests, journeys that otherwise would have been blind. They did not know why the needle turned, only that the earth itself seemed to whisper directions. It was as though the ground beneath and the heavens above were linked by a silent agreement. Yet this field, so steady, is not entirely constant. It wavers. It drifts. At times it falters. One of the most curious anomalies lies above the South Atlantic Ocean, stretching toward parts of Brazil and Africa. There, satellites passing overhead encounter strange disturbances. Radiation penetrates more strongly. Instruments flicker. It is as though the shield thins, as though the quiet rhythm of the Earth stumbles in that region. Scientists call it the South Atlantic anomaly, and they map it carefully, noting its expansion, its restless movement. But the cause remains an open question, a whisper in the data. Elsewhere, there are sudden shifts known as geomagnetic jerks, abrupt changes in the field that ripple through compasses and calculations, appearing without warning like a heartbeat that skips. On longer timescales, the poles themselves wander. True north is not fixed. It drifts across the Arctic, sometimes slowly, sometimes with unexpected haste. And across geological ages, the field has even reversed entirely. North becomes south, south becomes north, a flip written into layers of cooled lava-like pages in a diary. We read these patterns now, but the reasons remain partly hidden. Why should a planetary engine, so immense and steady, suddenly change its tune? Some voices in science describe these fluctuations as natural turbulence in the churning sea of molten iron. Like weather in the atmosphere, the core has its own storms. Yet for those who imagine further, there is another possibility. What if the anomalies are not random at all? What if they are signatures, tiny fingerprints of something structured, something designed, deep within the core? Consider it gently. The South Atlantic anomaly as the faint outline of an object buried in metal, disturbing the field like a stone disturbs a stream. Or pole reversals as moments when a deeper mechanism resets itself, as though recalibrating after millennia of motion. Even the geomagnetic jerks might be read as signals, brief pulses of adjustment from an ancient engine hidden beneath our awareness. Of course, these thoughts cannot be proved. They belong to the realm of speculation, of quiet wonder. And yet they remind us that the field we depend upon is not fully explained, that its fluctuations leave room for questions. Science listens with instruments, but imagination listens with a different ear. one attuned to the possibility that natural patterns may be more than chance. What if the Earth's shield is not only a consequence of molten iron, but also a conversation with something older, a technology not separate from nature, but entwined with it, amplifying it, guiding it, ensuring that life above can flourish? Such an idea feels both impossible and strangely fitting, for the magnetic field is not inert. It lives. It bends, flows, pulses. It behaves less like a static shield and more like a river, one that remembers where to run. As you look again at the night sky, the aurora begins to shimmer faintly at the poles, green and violet veils stirring in silence. These lights are the visible breath of the invisible field, reminders that forces we cannot touch still shape every moment of life. Whether purely natural or touched by something hidden, they remain mysterious, patient, and profound. Let us carry this wonder with us as we continue. For if the magnetic field is the voice of the core, then earthquakes are its heartbeat, and it is to those subterranean pulses, those seismic murmurs that echo through stone, that we will next turn our listening ear. When an earthquake occurs, waves ripple outward, passing through layers we cannot see. Some are swift, darting like arrows. Others roll and twist like water stirred by wind. They journey through crust and mantle, through molten outer seas, into the solid iron heart, and then out again. As they travel, they bend and change, as though speaking different dialects when entering new realms. Seismographs, sensitive ears pressed to the skin of the earth, record these whispers. To a trained eye, the traces on paper are more than lines. They are glimpses of what lies beneath. It is from these whispers that we know the earth's layers at all. The mantle, viscous and slow, the outer core, molten, restless, alive with convection. The inner core, a dense pearl of iron alloy. Without tremors, the planet would remain unknowable. But with them, we hear, faintly, the song of stone. And yet, even within this song, there are notes that do not fit. Over the last decades, seismologists have found anomalies, regions at the boundary between mantle and core where waves slow down as if striking something unexpected. They call them ultra-low velocity zones. Vast blobs, hotter and denser than the rock around them, linger like shadows in an ocean of fire. Some are as large as continents. Their presence complicates the neat diagram of crust, mantle, and core. They are interruptions, irregularities, things that should not quite be. What are these shadows? Some believe they are remnants of ancient plates, swallowed by the mantle and now resting at its base, altered by heat beyond recognition. Others think they are plumes of unusual composition, feeding volcanoes that pierce the surface. But for those willing to drift further into imagination, another possibility arises. What if they are structures? Not random leftovers, not anomalies, but something placed, or something grown. Picture, if you will, immense chambers woven into molten stone, caverns supported by materials unknown, stable even beneath crushing pressure, or vast crystalline nodes, vibrating faintly, redirecting energy through the planet like a circulatory system. To our instruments, these might appear only as blurred zones, places where waves falter. To us, they might be the first hint of architecture on a scale too great to grasp. Even within the inner core itself, mysteries remain. Some studies suggest it rotates at a slightly different pace than the rest of the Earth, like a slow gear turning inside a greater machine. At times it seems to speed, at times to stall. The cause of these rhythms is debated, yet the thought lingers. If it turns independently, what might it be turning for? Science offers models: thermal convection, crystallization, density gradients. These are compelling, and they carry weight, yet they do not silence the imagination's question. Could rotation? Could anomalies? Could seismic irregularities be more than geology? Could they be signs of an interior not only natural, but intentional? To walk this thought is not to abandon reason, but to honor wonder. For even in the strictest laboratory, data is filtered through interpretation, and interpretation always is touched by human curiosity. The ground shakes, instruments record, And then a mind asks, what does it mean? Perhaps the blobs at the mantle's base are only stone. Perhaps the shifting core is only physics. Yet perhaps they are more. Perhaps they are the heartbeat of something we cannot name, something that remembers long before us and will continue long after. As the tremors fade and silence returns, the earth exhales. The ground feels steady once more. But we know better now. Beneath our feet, beneath mountains and seas, murmurs are always passing, messages in stone, written in a language we are only beginning to read. For while seismic waves may be the heartbeat of the planet, our own inventions echo faintly in return. The ways we harness energy, the machines we build, the reactors we ignite, they mirror, in miniature, processes that may already exist in the deep. And it is to those parallels, those reflections between human and planetary design, that we will now turn. Consider geothermal energy. In Iceland, steam rises from fissures in the ground, carrying the planet's warmth into the air. Pipes gather this breath, spinning turbines that power homes and cities. It is a simple rhythm: heat below, movement above, comfort sustained. The earth gives warmth without flame, and people learn to listen for the places where stone exhales. Standing by such vents, you feel the closeness of the mantle, a reminder that the line between mythic underworld and practical energy is thin. In these plumes of steam, ancient whispers of fire are translated into light bulbs, heaters, and soft lamps glowing on winter nights. Or look to the great machines of physics, particle colliders, buried deep underground. They are tunnels of precision, rings where invisible particles race at near-light speeds, colliding to reveal secrets of creation. Though designed to probe the smallest scales, they echo something vast. Hidden currents looping endlessly, energies concentrated to birth new patterns. The Earth's core, too, is a collider of sorts. Atoms squeezed under crushing weight, changing phase, creating fields. Our machines are brief and fragile, but they are attempts to imitate the unseen work of a planet. And then there are nuclear reactors. At their heart lies a paradox: controlled fire without flame, energy drawn not from burning but from rearranging the very heart of matter. They glow quietly, warming water, spinning turbines, feeding grids. To stand near one is to sense both danger and promise, a mirror of the awe our ancestors felt before sacred flames. The Earth itself, in its molten interior, may be seen as the first reactor, heat born not from coal or oil, but from compression, decay, and forces older than memory. Through these inventions we glimpse parallels. Our dams echo the rivers that carve valleys. Our colliders echo the collisions that form stars. Our reactors echo the furnace within the core. Each is smaller, more fragile, yet each carries a resonance, as if we are remembering something written into the fabric of the earth itself. Perhaps invention is less creation than imitation, a tuning of human hands to rhythms already alive in the world. And if that is true, then one wonders, what if earlier civilizations also listened more deeply than we? What if they learned to shape their technologies not against nature, but with it, weaving machines into the flows of mantle and core? Imagine cities that drew warmth directly from steady currents beneath, needing no fuel, no smoke. Imagine devices that harmonized with magnetic lines, not resisting them, but riding them like sails on a cosmic wind. Our machines, though impressive, are brief. They rust, they break, they fall into ruin within centuries. But if technology could be built on planetary principles, durable as stone, patient as cycles of tide, it might endure for eons, hidden even as civilizations rose and fell above. Perhaps the blobs and anomalies seismologists see are not relics of random geology, but echoes of such harmonized inventions. Perhaps the inner Earth is not merely heat, but a slow architecture, maintained long after its makers disappeared. There is humility in this thought. For while we marvel at our reactors and colliders, they are but sparks compared to the furnace of the planet. Our towers and turbines rise, but none yet can match the endurance of stone shaped by time. Perhaps the Earth itself has always been the first engineer, its core the first power source. We, in our brief span, are apprentices, learning slowly, imitating imperfectly, building fragile mirrors of something already vast. And so, as we trace the hum of turbines or the whisper of steam rising from geothermal vents, we are reminded, we are not inventors standing apart from nature. We are imitators, listeners, participants. Our greatest technologies may only be reflections of deeper designs, hidden beneath the crust, humming softly, older than any map or name. The ground beneath your feet seems solid, steady, and mute. Yet for as long as stories have been told, people have imagined that it is not silence that lies below, but voices, entire civilizations, hidden and enduring, just out of reach. The idea of life within the earth has accompanied humanity across cultures and centuries, taking many shapes: myth, scripture, speculation, even fiction dressed as science. During the 17th and 18th centuries, when maps were still filling in the blank spaces of the surface, others began to sketch possibilities beneath. Edmund Halley, famous for the comet that bears his name, suggested that the Earth might contain hollow shells, each turning within the other like vast clockwork. He imagined luminous atmospheres inside, even life, nurtured in warmth unseen. Centuries later, this speculation rippled into the imaginations of writers and explorers. The idea of Agartha, an advanced inner kingdom, was said to exist beneath Tibet, connected by tunnels that spanned continents. Shambhala, sometimes conflated with it, was described as a radiant city hidden from ordinary sight, a refuge of wisdom beneath mountains. Whether as metaphor or map, these tales drew seekers who believed that paradise might be found not in the heavens above, but in caverns below. Fiction, too, kept the idea alive. In the 19th century, Jules Verne's Journey to the Centre of the Earth invited readers into a subterranean world where seas stretched beneath vaulted stone, where prehistoric creatures lingered, where the Earth itself was revealed as a layered archive of deep time. Though meant as adventure, the story resonated with something older. The sense that beneath us lies more than rock, that there may be continuity of life, memory, or even intelligence hidden in the depths. Yet even long before these European imaginings, indigenous traditions had already spoken of inner worlds. The Hopi of North America tell of emergence from a previous world beneath the ground, guided upward by a spiritual figure through a sipapu, a small hole that connects the realms. Among the Navajo, stories describe earlier worlds below, from which humanity ascended step by step, leaving behind traces of each. In these accounts, the underworld is not dark punishment, but origin, an ancestral home remembered with reverence. Across the Pacific, Polynesian traditions often spoke of subterranean refuges, places of retreat during floods or fire. In Mesoamerica, caves were sacred portals to Xibalba, the Mayan underworld, where gods of challenge and trial awaited. These were not places of final death, but thresholds where knowledge could be gained, where the balance between worlds could be remembered. There is a pattern here, subtle but insistent. The inner earth is rarely imagined as empty. It is full of ancestors, of wisdom, of powers both guiding and terrifying. It is a place of contact, a place where boundaries thin. For some, it is the seat of hidden masters, civilizations older and wiser than our own, quietly watching. For others, it is a stage for mythic testing, where humanity proves its worth. Always, it is alive. If we listen carefully, these stories may not be literal in the modern sense, but they may carry echoes of memory. Cataclysms, the floods, the fires, the long winters of ice, may have driven survivors into caves, where communities endured and passed down tales of living below. Over centuries, such memories could become woven with symbolism, growing into visions of radiant kingdoms beneath the soil. What began as shelter could become myth. What began as refuge could become legend of entire civilizations dwelling within. And yet, what if there is more? What if these stories are not only memory of survival, but also fragments of something older still, a knowledge of forces deep within the earth, forces that sustain life above? When people speak of luminous cities, are they remembering not stone halls but the glow of subterranean energy? When they describe tunnels and caverns, are they hinting at structures glimpsed, felt, or inherited from an age before ours? Science would remind us that the pressures and temperatures deep within are uninhabitable by anything we know. And yet science also admits that life has been found thriving in places once thought impossible. Microbes within volcanic vents, ecosystems deep in the oceanic crust, organisms feeding on chemical energy rather than sunlight. If such resilience exists here near the surface, might there be forms of life, or something lifelike, adapted to the hidden energies of the Earth's interior? Perhaps not civilizations in the form we imagine, but networks of intelligence unlike our own, existing quietly beneath us. The thought is both unsettling and strangely comforting. To imagine civilizations beneath is to feel less alone, to sense that the Earth is not only cradle, but companion, layered with secrets. It invites humility. Our cities are fragile, brief, but perhaps beneath them lie older cities of memory, or patterns of energy that function like civilizations, carrying purpose across ages. As we let these whispers settle, we find ourselves standing between myth and geology, between story and seismograph. The Earth's depths remain hidden, but the human impulse to populate them with meaning is unending. Whether as ancestral home, radiant kingdom, or impossible refuge, the inner Earth civilizations remind us that what lies below is never truly inert. It is always imagined as alive, aware, capable of influence. The Earth is quiet tonight, but history reminds us that such quiet is never permanent. Beneath still landscapes lie memories of upheaval, sudden and vast, when the planet itself seemed to turn against its inhabitants. In the language of geology, these are cataclysms, moments when the deep interior makes its presence known on the fragile surface above. Volcanoes, magnetic reversals, floods, mass extinctions, all are tremors of a deeper power, sometimes slow, sometimes explosive, always transformative. Consider the supervolcanoes. Beneath Yellowstone in North America, beneath Lake Toba in Indonesia, immense reservoirs of molten rock rest like sleeping giants. They breathe slowly, their gases seeping upward, their chambers filling over millennia. When they awaken, the world itself changes. Toba's eruption some 74,000 years ago cast ash across continents, dimmed sunlight, and may have brought humanity to the edge of survival. Such events are not merely local disasters. They are planetary inflections, moments when the mantle's slow churn erupts into the surface story. And then there are the magnetic reversals, subtle yet profound. Recorded in layers of hardened lava, they tell of times when north and south changed places, when compasses would have spun strangely, when the sky itself might have shimmered with auroras far from the poles. The field weakens during these transitions, exposing Earth to greater radiation, altering climates, perhaps nudging the rhythms of life itself. Each reversal is a reminder that the magnetic shield, though steady in our lifetimes, is not eternal. It shifts on scales that outlast civilizations. Mass extinctions, too, carry the fingerprints of inner upheaval. The Permian extinction, the Great Dying, saw most of life vanish. Volcanic outpourings in Siberia released floods of lava and gas, reshaping atmosphere and ocean. The dinosaurs later were felled by a combination of cosmic impact and volcanic fury in India. Each time the crust opened, and from below came waves of fire and chemical breath that rewrote the book of life. These are the natural explanations, and they are powerful. Yet alongside them, whispers of another possibility emerge. What if such events are not only accidents of geology? What if they are connected in some hidden way to structures or technologies buried within? Imagine for a moment that deep within the core lies a mechanism, ancient and deliberate. Most of the time, it hums quietly, stabilizing fields, releasing energy in balance. But on occasion, whether by design, decay, or necessity, it shifts. A recalibration ripples outward. The magnetic field wavers, pressure builds in the mantle, the crust cracks open. To us, it looks like catastrophe. To the mechanism, perhaps it is only maintenance, an adjustment in a system too vast for us to comprehend. Could the flood myths of ancient cultures be memories of such adjustments? In Mesopotamia, The Epic of Gilgamesh speaks of waters rising to erase the world. In the Hebrew Bible, Noah's Ark carries life above a drowned earth. In Andean traditions, stories tell of floods that reshaped valleys, leaving only a few to climb to safety. While some of these tales may reflect local disasters, together they weave a global motif. Waters unleashed, civilizations swept away, a reset from beneath and above. Might these myths encode not only memory of storms and seas, but echoes of inner earth convulsions, moments when hidden power broke through to the surface? To stand in the presence of these possibilities is to feel both awe and unease. Awe, because the scale is beyond imagining. Unease, because if hidden mechanisms do exist, they are not under our control. We are passengers, reliant on rhythms we cannot command. Yet, there is another way to listen. Cataclysms, though destructive, also clear paths. They extinguish, but they also prepare. Forests regrow after fire. Life diversifies after extinction. Perhaps if a technology hums within the Earth, its purpose is not to destroy, but to sustain balance on scales too immense for us to see. What feels like catastrophe in human years may be a kind of recalibration across the ages. As night falls over ancient calderas and dormant rifts, one senses a presence, silent now, but not gone. The Earth is alive, and its deep interior holds powers that surface civilizations can only imagine. Whether purely natural or touched by something hidden, these upheavals are reminders of connection between the unseen core and the fragile world above. Let us walk onward with that reminder. For just as stone carries traces of cataclysm, so too do texts and traditions carry records, forgotten maps, esoteric diagrams, whispers preserved across centuries. And it is to those records, fragile yet enduring, that our path now turns. One of the most curious of these records is the Piri Reis map, drawn in 1513 by an Ottoman admiral. At first glance, it seems a careful chart of coasts known and imagined, pieced together from earlier sources. Yet scholars have long noted its oddities. The southern reaches, which appear to show Antarctica centuries before its discovery. Coastlines depicted free of ice, as if drawn from a memory older than recorded history. Some suggest coincidence, others misinterpretation. Yet to those listening for whispers, it feels like an echo, a shadow of knowledge preserved from a time when the Earth's hidden forms were more clearly understood. In the 20th century, Charles Hapgood revisited such anomalies in his book Maps of the Ancient Sea Kings. He argued that ancient cartographers had access to source maps far older than their cultures, maps perhaps inherited from a forgotten civilization. Einstein himself, though cautious, wrote a foreword, noting that Hapgood's ideas were worthy of consideration. While the mainstream remains skeptical, the suggestion lingers like a faint light through parchment. What if ancient peoples had glimpsed not only distant coasts, but also patterns within the Earth itself? Beyond maps, there are texts that read more like diagrams of mysteries than accounts of terrain. Hermetic traditions speak of hidden chambers within the world, of correspondences between above and below, of forces moving in cycles that bind heaven, earth, and underworld. Medieval alchemists inscribed images of spheres within spheres, flames at the center, metals arranged as if echoing planetary layers. Were these mere metaphors for spiritual transformation, or attempts, however symbolic, to recall truths about the Earth's interior? In esoteric diagrams, one often finds concentric circles, stairways descending into chambers, or symbols of fire within stone. The Emerald Tablet, attributed to Hermes Trismegistus, speaks of that which is below, mirroring that which is above. Such phrases are usually read as philosophy, yet in a different light, they suggest a worldview where the planet itself is alive with hidden correspondences. Its core not an inert lump, but a heart of resonance, a source of power reflected in stars and souls alike. Indigenous traditions, too, carry fragments that may be read as records. Carved petroglyphs of spirals descending into rock, stories of tunnels beneath mountains, sacred sites aligned with unseen forces. These do not appear as scientific charts, but as mnemonic codes, guiding memory more than measurement. If one listens carefully, they seem to point toward awareness that the Earth is layered, alive, and capable of communication. Could myths, maps, and esoteric texts be more than coincidence? Could they be fragments of a deeper record, passed through generations in symbolic form? If an ancient technology truly lies beneath, perhaps its presence once left impressions on those sensitive to its rhythms. A flicker in the sky, a trembling in the ground, a strange warmth in stone. Such impressions may have been translated into stories, diagrams, or maps. Over centuries, meaning may have shifted, but echoes remain. To imagine this is to see human history not as a straight line, but as a palimpsest. Layers of knowledge written, erased, rewritten. Some knowledge survives in libraries, some in oral traditions, some in symbols carved into rock. Much is lost, yet traces remain, enough to suggest that humanity has always been aware, however faintly, that the Earth conceals more than it reveals. As we close the door of the library and step back into night, we carry these forgotten records like embers cupped in our hands. They are fragile, incomplete, but luminous in their way. They do not prove, but they suggest. They remind us that memory is not only written in books, but in landscapes, in myths, in the quiet insistence that what lies below matters deeply. And so we continue, holding these embers as guides. For beyond records and maps, there are stranger tales, encounters not with texts, but with phenomena themselves. Lights, sounds, objects appearing from depths or vanishing into seas. Yet sailors across centuries have reported more than water and stars. They have spoken of lights that rise from the depths, that move with intelligence, that vanish as quickly as they appear. We call them anomalies now, or fold them into the language of UFOs and UAPs. But for those who first witnessed them, they were presences, enigmatic, silent, and unsettling. Some of these encounters occur far from land, above trenches where the Earth's crust folds downward into shadow. Strange orbs of light have been seen surfacing briefly, gliding just above the waves, and then plunging back into the sea without a splash. Submariners have recorded sonar contacts, objects faster than any known craft, moving at impossible angles through water. To those who speculate, these are not simply aerial mysteries, but aquatic ones. They do not descend from the stars, they ascend from below. Historical accounts echo similar themes. In 1492, as Columbus crossed the Atlantic, he noted in his journal a light rising from the sea, like the flame of a candle ascending. It flickered, vanished, and appeared again. To modern ears, it sounds like a simple phenomenon, yet within the long continuity of reports, it becomes another piece of a puzzle. A suggestion that the ocean's depths, which cover most of the planet, may be doorways for forces we do not understand. Closer to home, strange sounds have also been recorded. Deep hums, metallic clangs, pulses of resonance that seem to emanate from beneath the Earth's surface or the ocean floor. The bloop, recorded by NOAA hydrophones in 1997, was so loud it echoed across thousands of miles of ocean. Scientists attribute it to ice fracturing, yet its profile was unusual enough to spark alternative interpretations. Other low-frequency hums detected beneath cities and coasts remain unexplained. They remind us that sound too is a language of the hidden. Perhaps the Earth is speaking, and we have only begun to hear. In folklore, encounters with beings or objects from below are common. Legends of luminous spheres in caves, of gods emerging from lakes, of tunnels leading to radiant halls. In Mesoamerican myth, the lords of Xibalba were said to send trials upward from their subterranean realm. In Tibetan and Central Asian lore, travelers spoke of guides who emerged briefly from hidden kingdoms to share fragments of wisdom. To the communities who told these stories, contact with the inner earth was both a gift and a danger, offering knowledge but demanding respect. If one allows the imagination to wander, a pattern begins to emerge. Could the lights seen above trenches, the sounds recorded in oceans, the myths of beings from beneath, all be subtle traces of a deeper presence? If ancient technologies truly lie within the core, perhaps their influence leaks upward, manifesting as anomalies in water, sky, and stone. A field adjustment in the core could ripple as lights above the sea. A recalibration of hidden machinery could emerge as low-frequency sound. What we call unexplained phenomena may be only surface reflections of something vast beneath. There is a quiet unease in this thought. For if the core is not silent, then we are not alone even within our own planet. We are sharing space with presences older than our civilizations, presences that may or may not be aware of us. Yet there is also wonder. The lights are fleeting, the sounds enigmatic, the stories elusive. They do not overwhelm, they do not dominate, they simply remind us that mystery is still alive, moving quietly under our feet and beneath our seas. The earth is stable, a home, and yet it is alive with signals that remain unresolved. To dwell in that awareness is to live in humility, aware that our knowledge is partial, aware that the unknown is still immense. Imagine for a moment that the long search ends. Instruments, whispers, and myths converge into discovery. The veil is lifted, and within the Earth's core we find not only iron and pressure, but something more. An architecture, a system, a technology so old it predates all known civilizations. What would it mean for us here on the fragile surface? At first, the realization would be breathtaking. To uncover a functioning mechanism at planetary depth would upend history. We would no longer see Earth as only a planet shaped by chance, but as a vessel carrying intention. The story of humanity as the pinnacle of innovation would falter, replaced by the awareness that we are not the first to harness energy at scale. We are latecomers, apprentices inheriting a workshop already humming. The impact on science would be immeasurable. Physics, geology, and biology would be rewritten. Imagine a core engine capable of sustaining magnetic fields across billions of years, resistant to decay. If studied, it could inspire new energy sources, clean, constant, planetary in scope. Cities might no longer depend on coal, oil, or fragile grids. Instead, they could tap into principles drawn from the deepest heart of the Earth, principles that align with rhythms more stable than any human invention. Material science would shift as well. To survive at those pressures and temperatures, the structures within the core must be made of substances beyond our imagination. Metals that do not melt, crystals that do not shatter, lattices that endure where even diamond dissolves. If humanity could replicate such materials, our tools, our machines, our very architecture would transform. Space travel, once constrained by fragile alloys and limited fuels, could blossom with ships built from substances as enduring as the Earth's own heart. Propulsion might no longer depend on chemical fire, but on resonance with fields and energies we have barely named. And yet, even as wonder spreads, caution follows close behind. For every new power awakens new tension. Who would control such knowledge? If one nation or group claimed ownership, imbalance would ripple across the globe. Wars have been fought over oil and water. What would erupt over access to the core itself? The discovery could unite humanity under awe or fracture it under ambition. There are also ethical dilemmas. If the core technology is not inert but alive, still performing a purpose, should we interfere? To tamper with it could risk destabilizing the shield that protects us, the rhythms that sustain climate and oceans. To unlock the mechanism might be to endanger not only civilizations, but the planet itself. Humanity, so eager to touch and claim, would have to ask whether it is wise to do so. Still, the temptation would be immense. Imagine a reactor whose output dwarfs every energy source we know, a design that hums for millions of years without decay. Imagine propulsion systems that bend not just air, but gravity itself. Imagine medicine transformed by materials that endure in extremes, or by energies that harmonize with life rather than consume it. The discovery would also transform philosophy, our sense of origin, our relationship to myth, our trust in history would all shift. Were the builders human? Were they visitors from beyond? Or was the planet itself the builder, shaping structures as part of its own mysterious life? Each possibility unsettles, each expands the horizon. In the quiet after such discovery, one might feel awe but also humility. For if the Earth has carried this secret for billions of years, then our civilizations are but passing seasons. We are brief, fragile, and unprepared. To hold the key to the core is to hold a responsibility far greater than any our species has faced before. As you picture this, you can almost feel the hum beneath your feet, not only geological, but intentional. It is as though the ground is alive with possibilities waiting to be noticed, waiting to be interpreted. To unlock the core is not only to gain power, but to face a mirror, one that asks whether we are ready for what we might find. Let us hold this vision lightly, as one holds a fragile flame in the night, for beyond the promise of discovery lies the question of choice. If we uncover this secret, how will we respond? With reverence or with hunger? With wisdom or with greed? The answer will shape more than history. It will shape the very survival of humanity itself. The first question arises almost immediately. Who owns such a discovery? The Earth's core does not lie beneath one nation. It belongs to all, and yet, as history shows, humanity often struggles to share. Oil fields, rivers, even air routes have sparked conflict. If the power of the core could light cities or propel ships beyond stars, how quickly would governments and corporations move to claim it? Would treaties hold, or would borders harden? The very idea of ownership becomes fragile, for how can anyone possess what lies at the center of all? One path imagines unity. Nations come together, realizing that such a discovery transcends borders, that the core belongs to humanity as a whole. In this vision, a council is formed, wisdom is shared, and decisions are made with global voices. The technology becomes a common heritage, like air or sunlight, guiding us toward a future where conflict is set aside for survival. It is a hopeful thought, luminous and rare. Another path, however, is darker. The discovery is hidden, suppressed, controlled by a few. Access becomes a weapon, and knowledge is parceled out in secrecy. Already in history we see shadows of this. Documents locked away, experiments sealed, findings classified. If such suppression occurred with something as profound as the Earth's core, humanity might never see its promise, only feel its tremors, filtered through the ambitions of the few. The world could divide sharply, those who know and those who remain in the dark. Suppression carries its own questions. If the core mechanism is dangerous to disturb, is secrecy protection or theft? Perhaps some would argue that humanity is not ready, that disclosure would cause panic or reckless exploitation. Yet others would ask whether withholding the truth is itself a crime, a theft not only of knowledge but of the future. Truth becomes a contested landscape, as fraught as the geology beneath our feet. Beyond politics and secrecy lies the deeper ethical question: should we interfere at all? If the core's hidden structures still function, they are performing a task older than our species. The magnetic field continues to shield us. The Earth's rhythms continue to sustain life. To tamper with such a mechanism could be catastrophic, yet to leave it untouched might feel like turning away from destiny. The dilemma is sharp: reverence or ambition, restraint or curiosity. These crossroads echo through philosophy. The ancients often taught humility before forces greater than ourselves. The Greeks spoke of hubris, the danger of overstepping bounds. Indigenous traditions speak of balance, of taking only what is given. The myths of Atlantis themselves warn of civilizations undone by arrogance in their use of power. To discover core technology is to stand once more at that threshold, tempted by knowledge, reminded of limits. And still, the allure would be immense. Imagine leaders hearing of infinite energy, of propulsion beyond rockets, of materials indestructible. Could they resist reaching for it? Could humanity, in its youth, choose patience? As you stand in this thought, the crossroads feels heavy, like the hush before a storm. The core hums beneath, steady, indifferent to our debates. It has endured for eons without us. Whether we touch it or not, it will likely continue. The true question is whether humanity can align its choices with the rhythms of something older, or whether we will once again fracture under ambition. The dream of reaching the Earth's core has stirred minds for centuries, Yet when we measure the distance between what we wish and what we can, the gap feels immense. The crust itself resists us, thick and unyielding. Our deepest mines barely touch its surface. The Kola superdeep borehole in Russia, dug over decades, reached just 12 kilometers down, less than a fingernail's depth compared to the planet's full diameter. At that depth, the heat was already intense, the rock already treacherous. The tools broke, the drill twisted, the project ended. Humanity has stepped across oceans, but beneath our feet we remain stranded at the shoreline. Why is the journey so difficult? Pressure mounts quickly. For every kilometre descended, the weight above grows heavier, the stone tighter, the temperature hotter. At the boundary of the core, pressures are millions of times greater than at the surface, and temperatures rival the sun. Any machine we build today would be crushed, melted, or undone long before it approached the heart. The frontier of exploration is not distance alone, but resistance. Resistance of heat, of density, of endurance. And yet, we continue to dream, perhaps not with drills of steel, but with instruments of imagination. Scientists explore indirect ways to reach the depths, using neutrinos, ghostly particles that pass through the Earth without resistance, as probes that might reveal hidden structures. Others study seismic waves more carefully, building global networks of instruments that can refine our image of the unseen. Still others imagine future materials, forged in laboratories, that might withstand pressures no metal today can endure. Some speak of quantum drills, machines that would not cut but vibrate, loosening stone with resonance rather than force. Others imagine swarms of autonomous probes, descending like seeds through cracks and fissures, relaying signals back from the dark. Such ideas sound like fiction, but fiction has often preceded invention. Jules Verne imagined submarines before they were built, space voyages before they were launched. Perhaps one day, ideas of core exploration will follow the same path, dream becoming design. Even if such advances arrive, the scale of the challenge demands patience. We are accustomed to progress measured in years or decades. The core, however, asks us to think in centuries, in millennia. To reach it may not be the task of one generation, but of many. The work would be like a pilgrimage, long, difficult, requiring humility and continuity across ages. The frontier is not only technological, but cultural. Can humanity sustain curiosity without rushing, ambition without destruction? And what if the goal is not to reach the core physically at all, but to listen more deeply? Already satellites observe the magnetic field with exquisite sensitivity. Already arrays of seismometers record the planet's tremors like heartbeats. Perhaps the path forward is not descent, but resonance, learning to interpret the signals already arriving from below. If there is hidden design, it may reveal itself not through drills, but through patterns, waiting for ears patient enough to hear. Still, the yearning remains. To picture the descent is to picture more than science. It is to picture a journey into mystery. Imagine standing at the edge of a vast machine, walls glowing faintly, currents of molten metal streaming past like rivers of fire. Imagine placing your hand on a crystalline pillar that hums softly with power, older than the moon. To imagine such scenes is to feel awe, but also to feel how far we are from them. Perhaps that is the lesson of the frontier. The core invites us, but not with open doors. It asks us to grow, to mature, to balance curiosity with patience. The frontier is real, but it is not only geological. It is ethical, cultural, and spiritual. To reach the Earth's heart is to ask whether we are prepared, not just with machines, but with wisdom. As we pause at this threshold, the dream glows like a horizon after sunset. We do not yet know how to cross it. But the thought itself changes us, reminding us that beneath our feet lies not emptiness, but possibility. The frontier is not distant, but intimate, inside the very ground that carries us. And so we walk toward our final reflection. For if the core is the ultimate frontier, then it is also the ultimate stillness, the place where movement ends and mystery remains. Let us now return to that silence, to the beginning of our journey, and close our path with the stillness that lingers at the Earth's heart. The journey returns us to where it began, standing upon the quiet Earth, the ground firm beneath our feet, the sky wide and steady above. We have wandered in thought through fire and stone, through myth and seismograph, through whispers of civilizations and visions of ancient machines. And now, in this final part, we pause again, listening not for answers but for stillness. Close your eyes and imagine the descent one last time. You pass again through soil, through the crust, through the mantle's slow churning sea. The outer core shimmers with molten rivers, restless and alive. Deeper still, the inner core glows faintly, not with flame, but with pressure. Light without light, heat without fire. Here, in this imagined chamber, silence reigns. The heart of the earth is not loud. It is steady, unbroken, enduring. It feels less like a machine and more like a heartbeat. A pulse that has continued since the earth was born, guiding magnetic fields, shaping climate, sustaining the fragile film of life above. Whether natural or something more, it has always been present, a rhythm beneath every breath we take. To stand in imagination at this depth is to feel the weight of continuity, billions of years condensed into the hum of iron. And yet, this stillness is not empty. It carries a sense of presence, as if the earth itself is aware, patient, watching. Myths called it underworld, Shambhala, Patala, Agartha. Science calls it core, inner sphere, crystallized iron. Both are names reaching for something beyond description. The truth may never be fully ours. Perhaps that is the point. Some mysteries are not meant to be solved, but to be lived with, honored, allowed to deepen our sense of wonder. As we stand at this threshold, there is no need for conclusions. The earth does not explain itself. It simply endures, carrying us quietly through space, sheltering us beneath fields and rhythms, hiding its secrets in silence. Whether the core holds only iron or also ancient technologies, the deeper mystery is the same, that we live upon a planet more alive, more enigmatic than we can fully grasp. Let us return upward now, gently, past the glowing inner sphere, past the molten outer ocean, past the mantle's shifting stone, back through the crust, to the cool air of the surface, to the stars overhead. The night is still. The earth beneath us hums, steady and unseen. We end where we began, with stillness, with mystery, with the quiet invitation to wonder. The journey has carried us through echoes of science, legend, and speculation, but it returns us to silence, a silence that cradles both awe and rest. So, drift now with these thoughts. Imagine the heartbeat of the earth carrying you gently into sleep. The stars above shimmer like ancient stories, and the ground beneath whispers of worlds we may never fully know. May this mystery be a comfort, a reminder that even in silence, the earth is alive. Good night.